To those who are without the law, I became without the law. I acted just like a Gentile to those Gentiles. Now, who is he called to? Who's Paul called to? The Gentiles. So Paul realizes I'm going to have to spend most of my life. So this is the progression that Paul went through. I'm going to spend most of my life ministering to the Gentiles. That's who I'm called to. For some reason, that's his calling. We're all called to different people. There's different people that we're going to be able to reach. What's your name? Ernest. Ernest is a scientist. He's a physicist. I haven't said it right yet. Okay, all right. So Ernest has made all these theorems proving the existence of God. And he can go take you to the Big Bang Theory and take you to all these different scientists so that if he's talking to other scientists, he can show them with science why there's a God. I can't, right? If they said, well, you know, back in the Einstein said, we'd like, hallelujah, didn't know what they were talking about. But he can reach them, right? I don't know, do you know how to talk gang member?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that well. I wouldn't try it out for a gang member part one time in a movie. I walked in the door, I thought I looked like a gang member. I had on jeans and suspenders and a green shirt, and I walked in and they laughed at the door. They did not let me audition because I thought, no thanks. Because I didn't look like a gang member. I wouldn't be able to reach gang members. They would know right away, that's a church boy. You can't fool me. You look like you talk, you know what I'm saying? I don't care how I would dress. What's up? It's a church boy. You can tell somebody's been raised in church their whole life, but I can reach other church boys, right? So you can reach, God has designed all of us to reach someone because of what we've gone through. We'll be able to reach that person that nobody else can reach, right? They're going to relate to us, to what you've gone through. That's the purpose. Instead of hiding your past or being ashamed, no, that's God delivered you from that because he's going to help you to reach those people. Yes, sir.
Yeah, when you see all the men and women of God pass through the wilderness, like the first Saul, he went into the wilderness, he came back a king. David, he went to the wilderness, and they called for lifted off Jesse's son. God called David out of the wilderness.
Right.
Jesus Christ came out of the wilderness when he started his ministry. John the Baptist was in the wilderness. But when you see the two Sauls, the contrast is this Saul was right under God's leadership. This Saul had a prophet in front of him telling him what to do. And so, which one do you want? Because David spent the time with a prophet telling him what to do. And then when we see David's full maturity, it was God telling him.
Right. So the other Saul, this Saul that we're talking about, describe him to me.
He was under God's leadership, and the reason why he could pass from Gentile to Jew is because God's leading him to do so.
Oh, yes, exactly. But let me tell you where he ended up talking 9% just to the Gentiles.
Exactly.
He started out talking to the Jews because that's what he knew. But God said, really, I designed you to reach the Gentiles.
Amen.
Now, when I first got turned on and started witnessing, and again, I'm telling you, I thought everybody was saved. Everybody was saved in my family, everybody was saved in church, everybody was saved in school. I thought everybody was saved. And then I found out that there were people going to hell, and I was like shocked. Right? And I started running around witnessing everybody. So I witnessed the Jehovah's Witnesses, so I studied up on Jehovah's Witnesses so that I could witness to them. And then I witnessed the Mormons, and I actually went down to the Mormon temple and sat with Elder Brantley, I'll never forget. And we had a meeting in the midst of the Mormon temple, and he had to say with halting, we don't let blacks in. Is that okay with you? Would you still become a Mormon? And no, you weren't allowed. I said, yeah, that would not stop me. That would not be the thing that would stop me from being a Mormon. And then I began to witness to him. Catholics, Jews, I would just study each thing, right? And learn about it, and then go out and witness to that person. It's kind of like Paul. I became whatever they needed so I could find out, because I was going to save everybody. I was writing letters, and I'm going to be raptured tomorrow. You keep this in your pocket. If you don't see me, then you can read it. I was crazy. But finally, God led me to witness to the church. Because it turns out there are a lot of unsaved people in the church. And there are a lot of people in the church who just need to know more so they can be fully what God wants them to be. And I'm actually able to do it because of all the stuff I've been through. I think I'm able to do it more fully, if that makes any sense, because of all the studying I had to do to reach everybody else. And Paul was kind of that way. But now Paul was going to spend the most of his time talking to Gentiles. So he changed his name. Paul is a Gentile name. Saul is a Jewish name. But Paul is a Roman name. Okay, so he changed his name for two reasons. One is if I'm going to reach these Romans, these Gentiles, I need to have a Gentile name. So that was one reason. We'll find out the other reason in just a second. Acts chapter 13, verse 9.
This Saul, who also was called Paul, filled with the Holy Spirit, looked at him.
Now who's he looking at? We lost the story because I spent so much time babbling. He's looking at the sorcerer. The sorcerer came, and the sorcerer is trying to fool everybody and keep his power. He's a Jewish sorcerer, and he's trying to keep this Roman governor, he's trying to keep him from becoming a Christian. Because once he becomes a Christian, this Jewish sorcerer is going to lose his position, lose his power. So Paul looks intently at him. You can only do this when the Spirit of God comes upon you and suddenly somebody sticks out to you. Sometimes it can be for good, sometimes it can be for bad. But you've all had this experience. Somebody just suddenly stuck out to you. I got to go talk to that person. And you don't know what it is, but God is just drawing you to that person, right? It can be deliver a word of prophecy. It might just be to give them a hug or whatever. But something dropped on you. And you may have seen that person 20 times. Something different about today. And you just can't take your eyes off him. And that's what this term, he looked intently at him. He fastened his eyes on him. And suddenly, he just locked eyes with him. This happened to Peter and John. It's the same phrase. Let's look at Acts chapter 3, verse 2 and 4.
And a certain man lame from his mother's womb was carried, whom they laid daily at the gate of the city. His eyes on him. John, Peter said, look at us.
So it's the same phrase. So they walked by this guy every day. He was carried to the temple every day asking for money. Jesus walked by him. Everybody walked by him. No one ever said anything. But on this particular day, suddenly they fixed their eyes on him. And remember they said to him, rise up and walk, right? That wouldn't have worked any other day. It won't work when you want it to work. You may want the person to rise up and walk, but it won't work till the Spirit of God comes upon you. And then something, you're just drawn to that person, right? That's when God's going to do something. So you may want to do it. You may call that poor thing. But at a certain point, when you feel the Spirit of God on you, please don't ignore that. Don't come home and say, I just couldn't take my eyes off when you go talk to them. Oh, no. Yeah, please do. That's God on you. If you, for some reason, are drawn to somebody, he's going to do something. You don't have to know what it is he's going to do. You could even walk up and say, I don't know what it is, but I just got, I just couldn't take my eyes off you. That person might say, I've had this happen, right? And I said, I don't know what it is. And they said, well, today was the worst day, and my wife left me, blah, blah. Oh, well, then let me pray for you, right? So you don't have to know what it is, but you have to know that is God. It's not just some strange thing that suddenly somebody sticks out to you. And you probably all have a story where somebody, and you went up to them, and then God did something. Even if it's just that person became my best friend, whatever it was, right? Okay. So Paul looks at this sorcerer and fixes his eye on him, and it says in Acts chapter 13, verse 10 and verse 11,
and said, O full of all deceit and all fraud, you son of the devil, you enemy of all righteousness, will you not cease perverting the straight ways of the Lord? And now, indeed, the hand of the Lord is upon you, and you shall be blind, not seeing his son for a time. So
because you are perverting the ways of the Lord, because you know what you are doing and you're doing evil on purpose. A lot of the people that we talked about earlier, they weren't doing evil on purpose. they just were making a mistake. But he's doing it on purpose. You are perverting God's way. God's going to blind you so that all you can see is him for a time. You won't be able to see anything but him for just a time because he's going to change you. God's not, and he says you're not going to be able to see the sun for a time. It's just a temporary thing where everything else you were looking at in the world that you thought was important, you weren't able to see that anymore. God does that in our lives. Everything else in the world you thought was important, he separates you from it for a while. And you're stuck. You can only talk to him. You can be in a hospital bed, Ollie. You're stuck. And then God will talk to you in the hospital bed because you can't do all the running around you were doing. And God says, I don't want you that running around anymore. I just want you to stay in my presence from now on because I'm going to use you that way. You're more effective that way.
You know, I was just going to say that, remember when he blinded stars the
Well,
same way that
well, that's the next verse. Slow down. You have my brother's disease now. I'm sorry. That's okay. People who know the Bible get mad at me because you know. Yes, you're exactly right. So let's look at Acts chapter 9, verse 3 and 8.
As he journeyed, he came near Damascus.
This is Saul.
And suddenly a light shone around him from heaven. Then Saul arose from the ground, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no one. But they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus.
So Saul had this exact same experience where he thought he was doing God's work, and a light shone around him and it blinded him so he could see no one. Everything else that he thought was important, he was separated from, and he could only think about God, only talk to God. That's all he could see was God. He couldn't see anything else. God will do that to you if you're on the wrong path. He will blind you for a time and separate you from everything you thought was important, and so that all you can see is him. When you get out of that bed, don't say, well, that was a weird experience, because he'll knock you back in it later. So take the hint. There's a reason why things are happening a certain way. God is in charge of our circumstances, not the devil. So please look at them and go, okay, how come, I keep trying to hold that person, I never can, because God doesn't want you to. That there's a reason, right, that God is separating you. So if we ignore it, we're going to mess up. So Paul had been through that exact same thing, so he's able to tell the sorcerer, here's what God's going to do, he's going to blind you, because you are perverting and you're trying to get this guy away from Christ into something that you know is wrong. So, Acts chapter 13, verse 11b.
And immediately a dark mist fell on him, and he went around seeking someone to lead him by the hand.
Okay, let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 5:5.
Deliver such a one to Satan for the destruction of the flesh, that his spirit may be saved in the day of the Lord.
So, Paul sometimes understood that God will allow everything to crumble around you so that your soul can be saved. If you're headed in the wrong direction, so that what you are doing is going to ultimately destroy you and destroy your soul and your relationship with him, he will allow everything to crumble so that your soul can be saved. So he wants you like the prodigal son, go ahead and eat with the pigs. So you go, wait a minute, am I eating with pigs? That's crazy. Let me go back to God. So he will allow you for a time like the prodigal father. Yes, go ahead out there so that you'll learn your lesson and then come back to where you're supposed to be. God doesn't have a problem with that. Now, that's not the best way. The best way, of course, is us to listen from the beginning and not have to go through that. So it's not like God's sitting around going, ooh, I can't wait to get you some pig. He only does that when we are way in the wrong direction. He'll put up that roadblock. But his best way is for us just to get up every morning. Hey, Lord, what do I'm going to listen to your voice today. I'm going to follow you today. You set my GPS, and if you say right turn, I'm going to turn right. You say left, I'm going left. Okay, and you get to your destination faster. I found out that the GPS person knows more than me. Because sometimes I'm thinking, that is so stupid. Why would I get off the freeway and go and take this route and then get back? And then I drive another block, and there's the accident, and I'm stuck for 40 minutes. I said, oh, the GPS knew about this accident. And God, because the satellite can see farther than I can, right? So, and that's how God is. He can see farther down the road than we can. So when he says go do that, it's because he knows there's an accident in front of us. He's trying to spare us. But it's okay. You're still going to get there. So when we mess up, that's all right. God just corrects us and sets us on the right path. So if we messed up in life, God doesn't say, oops, sorry. God doesn't have a plan B. He only has plan A. We're still going to get there. God's still going to use us. He's going to do it. It just could have happened a little faster, but it's still going to happen. So you can't thwart God's will. Thank goodness we can't thwart his will. Okay, so let's look at Acts chapter 13, verse 12.
The proconsul believed.
So I'm going to stop there. Then the proconsul believed. This is Paul's first conversion. This is the first person that Paul got saved. I don't know if you remember, but all that happened when Paul preached to people is they tried to kill him. Right? Every single time they tried to get somebody saved, then they tried to kill him. That sneaking out of the pit, sneaking out of the gate. They were always sneaking Paul away because like, Paul, let me just get you out of here. They're about to kill you. And so finally somebody got saved. It was a Gentile. It was a Roman governor had gotten saved. His name was what? What was his name? It's back there. Sergius Paulus. His name was Sergio Paul. And Paul named himself after his first convert.
Oh.
His name was Paul. Paulos is the Greek way to say it. The Roman way, the Italian way to say it is just Paul. So the Bible's written in Greek, but they were speaking Roman. It's an odd thing. So the first guy that Paul got saved, his name was Paul. He was a Gentile, so he named himself after his first convert. Does that make sense? Sergius Paulus. So then he believed. Paul's so excited. Oh, I got somebody saved. Go on. He finally believed.
When he saw what had been done, being astonished at the teaching of the Lord.
Astonished at the teaching, at the doctrine of the Lord. Because Paul said, Jesus is the light, you're going to be in darkness. He'd already preached that to him. Jesus is the light, Jesus is the light. Then he actually saw God acted out. When this guy tried to lead him away from the light and the darkness, he said, okay, you're going to be in darkness until you see the light. And that's exactly what happened. And he was astonished at the doctrine of the Lord. Oh my goodness, God is actually demonstrating that he is light. And anything else you're looking at is darkness. Because this person who's trying to pervert me from him is now in darkness. Because he won't look at the light. And he's like astonished at the doctrine of the Lord that he just seen acted out. And so he believed. Jesus is the light. So, let's look at John chapter 8, verse 12.
And Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life.
Right. He's the light of the world. If we follow him, we won't be in darkness. Anywhere we go that God is not leading us is darkness. So we want to always just follow his voice. He's leading us into the light. Even if it doesn't make sense, if it doesn't, well, why does it make me make a right turn right here? Just go with God each time, because every step with God is in the light. Anytime we're walking away from him, we're walking into darkness. We're going to stumble. We're going to not know where we are. So we want to stay in the light and follow his voice in the light. To get into darkness, he keeps talking. He doesn't stop talking. And he'll just follow that voice, and he'll lead you out of that darkness back into the light. He never stopped. He never said, well, sorry. Even this sorcerer, he says, you'll be in darkness for a time, but then you'll come out. When Paul, that light shone him in the road to Damascus. For 3 days, you're going to be in darkness, but then you're going to come out. God never leaves us in that darkness. He keeps talking. He always sends someone to bring us out of the darkness into his light. So let's bow our heads.